This video is about the mom sat inside the city square and a rich stranger started a conversation. If this story touches your heart, please mention where you're all watching from in the comments. Please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. The afternoon sun bathed the city square in a warm, golden hue, illuminating the various vendors and bustling crowds. Children dashed between tables, laughter mingling with the distant sound of a street musician's melody. It was an ordinary day, yet for Clara, it felt brimming with possibilities. Seated on a withered wooden bench, Clara cradled her toddler on her lap, her heart swelling with both pride and exhaustion. 3-year-old Mia had inherited her mother's curious spirit, her white eyes darting around, absorbing the vibrant world around them. Clara brushed a stray strand of hay behind her ear, glancing at the colorful stalls filled with handmade crafts and local produce. "Can we go see the puppets, Mommy?" Mia chirped, her voice soft yet insistent. Clara smiled, her heart fluttering at the innocent enthusiasm. In a moment, sweetheart, let us just watch the man playing the guitar first. As the musician strummed a soft tune, Clara felt a wave of nostalgia wash over her. She and her late husband had spent countless afternoons in this very square, sharing dreams and laughter, their future unwritten. The ache of his absence was a persistent thorn in her heart, but it was moments like these filled with Mia's laughter that brought her back to the present. Just then, a shadow fell across her. Clara looked up, squinting against the sun's rays, and found herself staring into the striking blue eyes of a man. He was tall, well-built, and dressed in a tailored suit that seemed out of place among the casual crowd. A subtle air of confidence radiated from him, but it was his warm, inviting smile that caught her off guard. "Excuse me," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I couldn't help but notice how captivated your little one is by the music. That's infectious." Clara blinked, momentarily thrown off by his directness. "Yes, she loves music. It's her favorite thing, besides the puppets." The man chuckled, his laughter rich and genuine. "I can see why. There is something special about the way children connect with art. I am David, by the way." "Clara," she replied, her voice tinged with uncertainty. She gestured toward her daughter. "And this is Mia." David leaned casually against the bench, his gaze fixed on Mia, who had started to sway to the melody. "She is a beautiful girl. You must be so proud. How old is she?" 3. "It feels like just yesterday she was a tiny bundle in my arms," Clara replied, warmth flooding her chest at the memory. "Now, she is so curious about everything." David's expression softened. "I can relate. I have a niece who is just about her age. They have this unique ability to see wonder in the simplest things." Clara felt an unexpected connection with him, a shared understanding of parenthood's joys and challenges. "It is true. They remind us to appreciate the little moments." "Exactly," he said, his gaze lingering on her. "So tell me, what are your plans for the rest of the day? More puppet shows, or perhaps a quick tour of the market?" "Though, we'll probably stick around here," she replied, feeling a hint of excitement at the thought of engaging in this conversation. "I want to show her the local crafts. She loves playing with anything colorful." "Crafts, you say?" David raised an eyebrow, a hint of playfulness sparkling in his eyes. "I happen to be quite the enthusiast myself. Do you think you could use an extra pair of hands or eyes to help you navigate the stalls?" Clara felt a rush of warmth at his suggestion, but her mind swelled with caution. "I am not sure if that is appropriate," she said, a hint of hesitation in her voice. "I don't usually let strangers join us." "Fair enough," he replied, his voice dropping to a more sincere tone. "But I promise I am harmless, just a guy looking to pass the time and enjoy some good company." Mia, oblivious to the undercurrents of their conversation, tugged at Clara's sleeve. "Mommy, can we go see the puppets now?" Clara looked into Mia's eager eyes and felt her resolve start to crumble. David's presence felt magnetic, pulling her toward him, yet she battled the lingering shadows of her past. "All right, we can visit the puppets," she said, her voice steadying. "But I think we'll be just fine on our own." He smiled, unfazed by her reluctance. "Fair enough, but if you change your mind, I'll be around. Enjoy the show." As he stepped back, Clara felt a pang of disappointment. There was something about David that intrigued her, a spark she hadn't felt in years. But she pushed the thought aside, focusing on Mia, who was now clapping excitedly as the puppet show began. The performance was lively, filled with colorful characters and whimsical tales. Clara found herself lost in the laughter of the children, the way their eyes sparkled with delight. But despite the joy surrounding her, her thoughts drifted back to David. Could she really let herself entertain the idea of a connection? As the last puppet took a bow, applause erupted, and Clara's heart raced. She felt a light tap on her shoulder. Turning around, she found David standing there, a friendly grin spread across his face. "Impressive, right?" he said, leaning slightly closer, his aroma of fresh cologne and something distinctly masculine enveloping her senses. "Very impressive," Clara replied, her voice barely above a whisper, the proximity igniting something within her. "I do say you have good taste." He paused, his gaze flicking to Mia, who was still clapping. "How about a little treat from one of the stalls, my treat?" "Really, I couldn't tea." Clara began, but the light in Mia's eyes stopped her. "Please, Mommy, can we?" Mia pleaded, her small hands clasped together in excitement. David's gaze met Clara's, an unspoken understanding passing between them. "It would be my pleasure," he said, tilting his head slightly as if to emphasize his sincerity. Clara weighed her options. The thought of allowing this handsome stranger to spend more time with her and Mia felt terrifying yet thrilling. "All right," she finally said, a gentle smile breaking through her apprehension. "But just one treat." "A deal." David extended his hand toward Mia, who took it eagerly, and together they walked toward the nearest stall. Clara followed, her heart racing as she observed the ease with which Mia responded to him. As they approached a stand overflowing with colorful cotton candy, David knelt beside Mia, his expression softening. "What do you think, little one? Should we get the biggest one they have?" "Yes, sir," Mia shouted, her eyes wide with wonder. Clara felt a twinge of jealousy at how easily David connected with her daughter, but she quickly dismissed it. "All right, cotton candy it is," Clara said, her voice light, but internally she grappled with her feelings. While David ordered the treat, Clara studied him closely, trying to decipher his intentions. He seemed genuine, but she had been Navi once before. The scars of her past were not easily forgotten. When David returned with the massive swell of sugary delight, Mia practically squealed with joy. "Thank you, mister," she exclaimed, reaching for the cotton candy. "You're welcome," he said, chuckling as he handed it to her. "Just promise to share a bit with your mom, all right?" Mia nodded, her mouth already half full of the fluffy confection. Clara couldn't help but laugh. "I think you're going to have to work hard to get any of that," she teased, watching her daughter's eyes light up even more. David's gaze flickered to Clara, and for a moment the world around them faded. "Maybe you could show me your favorite spot in the square," he suggested, his tone light yet laced with curiosity. Clara hesitated but found herself nodding, drawn into the warmth of his presence. "Okay, but don't blame me if that's not as exciting as you think." "Challenge accepted," he replied, his smile broadening. As they began to walk, Clara felt an unfamiliar flutter in her chest, a blend of excitement and apprehension. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to wonder. What if this day held more than just fleeting moments? What if it was the beginning of something entirely unexpected? The trio wandered through the lively square, the sounds of laughter and music painting a vibrant backdrop as Clara maneuvered with Mia at her side, the child blissfully licking cotton candy with sticky fingers. David walked on her other side, an easy smile on his face, and Clara couldn't help but notice the way his presence seemed to draw people at his gazes, as if they were magnetically pulled by his charisma. "Where are you taking us, Mommy?" Mia asked, her voice high-pitched and full of curiosity, pulling Clara back to the moment. "I thought we could check out that fountain over there," Clara replied, pointing toward the intricate stone structure that bubbled gently under the sun. A small crowd had gathered around it, children splashing playfully in the shallow pool. Yes, the fountain," Mia squealed, dashing ahead, her cotton candy bobbing like a bright flag. Clara watched her go, a smile spreading across her lips, but a small knot of anxiety twisted in her stomach. "Your daughter is adorable," David said, breaking the brief silence between them. The way he spoke was both genuine and light, as if he were genuinely enjoying this moment with them. "Thank you," Clara responded, glancing at him. She asked quite a handful of time. He chuckled softly, his gaze lingering on Mia as she twirled in delight. "That is what makes it all the more special, though, right? The energy and spirit they have, it is contagious." Clara felt a warmth swell in her chest, his words striking a familiar chord. "It is true, but sometimes I wish I could bottle it up just for a moment of peace," she said, allowing her defenses to lower slightly. "Peace is overrated," he replied with a playful grin. "Life is meant to be lived in the chaos. That is where the magic happens." His eyes sparkled with a mix of mischief and sincerity, and Clara felt a rush of warmth at the way he understood the essence of parenthood so effortlessly. Mia darted back to them, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Mommy, look, the water is dancing." She pointed at the fountain where the droplets glistened in the sunlight, creating a lovely, sparkling display. Clara knelt down to Mia's level, feeling the soft grass beneath her knees. It really is beautiful, sweetheart, she said, watching her daughter's captivated expression. It is like magic, Mia exclaimed, her face alight with pure joy. Magic, indeed, David echoed, his voice softening as he watched them. Clara caught the way his gaze flickered between her and Mia, the warmth in his expression making her heart flutter again. Do you come here often? He asked, leaning against the fountain and crossing his arms casually. Clara felt a mix of hesitation and curiosity swell within her. Not as much as I used to. My husband and I would come here for ice cream and picnics after. She trailed off, the weight of her past looming over her like a shroud. David's expression shifted slightly, and she could see a flicker of understanding in his eyes. I am sorry, he said gently. I didn't mean to pry. No, it is okay, Clara replied, forcing a smile. It has just been a while since I've allowed myself to reminisce. I guess the memories are bittersweet. Bittersweet is a part of life, he offered, his tone sincere. Sometimes it is the bittersweet moments that remind us how beautiful it can really be. Clara tilted her head slightly, studying him. You seem wise for someone so young. Flattery will get you everywhere, he said with a wink, and she felt her cheeks flush. But seriously, he continued, his expression earnest. I've had my fair share of ups and downs. I am learning to appreciate the complexities. There was an intensity in his gaze that made Clara's heart race, an undeniable chemistry sparking between them. Did he really mean that? Or was this just playful banter? Before she could respond, Mia tugged at her arm, breaking the moment. Can we go closer? Mommy, I want to touch the water. Clara chuckled, standing up and looking at David. I think that might be the only way to quell her excitement. Lead the way, David said, following them with an air of playful camaraderie. As they approached the fountain, Clara watched me dip her fingers into the cool water, squealing in delight as she splashed some onto her face. Clara couldn't help but laugh, the sound bubbling up from deep within her, easing her earlier tension. Just watch out for the splash zone, David teased, sidestepping the little droplets of water that flew in all directions. Mia giggled, her laughter infectious, and Clara found herself relaxing. As she looked at David, she noticed the way he interacted with Mia, easygoing and playful, yet there was a subtle protectiveness in his demeanor. Do you have any kids? Clara asked, curiosity getting the better of her. No, not yet, he said, his gaze thoughtful. But I've always loved kids. They have this unfiltered view of the world that I admire. Do you think you'll have some someday? She asked, a hint of hopefulness creeping into her voice. She felt a wistful yearning for the kind of family life she once dreamed of before her world fell apart. Maybe. I suppose it depends on the person I meet, he replied, his eyes locking onto hers with a weight that made her heart race. Someone who shares that vision. Clara felt a mixture of excitement and fear. Could she ever think of her romantic future again? Would it be fair to bring someone into her life when she still carried the scars of her past? Mia squealed again, breaking the heavy moment. Mommy, look, I made a splash. Nice job, Mia. Clara cheered, feeling a warm smile stretch across her face. She glanced at David, and their eyes met again, the connection undeniable and powerful. Want to see if we can make an even bigger splash together? David suggested, his blue eyes sparkling with mischief. Clara felt herself laugh, the moment so light and carefree. All right, just this once, she said, a hint of playful rebellion dancing in her tone. As the three of them began splashing around, Clara felt a sense of joy she hadn't experienced in a long time, a release, a reminder that life could still be fun. Water droplets glittered in the sun, and she was reminded of the simple pleasures that still existed amid the chaos of life. Yet, as she splashed alongside David, she couldn't shake the nagging thoughts in the back of her mind. Was this just a fleeting moment of happiness? Could she really allow herself to feel something more for him? The laughter of Mia mingled with the glistening water, drawing Clara back to the present as she watched her daughter's carefree spirit. Perhaps, just for today, she could let go of her worries if only for a little while. As they finally stepped back, laughter ringing in the air, Clara caught sight of David, his grin wide and his eyes bright, and for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope. What would it mean to allow herself to explore this unexpected connection? Let us dry off a bit, David suggested, a playful glint in his eye. I think I see a place nearby selling towels. Lead the way, Clara replied, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. As they walked together, a growing tension hung in the air, and Clara couldn't help but wonder where this day would lead. Could a simple encounter in the city square hold the promise of new beginnings? Mia stepped ahead, her laughter echoing in the air while Clara lagged slightly behind, still wrapped in the warmth of the day and the novelty of her unexpected companion. David walked beside her, his presence radiating both comfort and intrigue. "Do you come here often?" he asked, glancing sideways with a playful grin. "Not as much as I used to," Clara replied, her voice softening. "After everything, I found it hard to revisit places that held so many memories." David nodded, his demeanor shifting slightly to one of understanding. "That makes sense. Sometimes places hold too many ghosts." Clara felt her heart race, an unspoken connection forming between them. "It's easier to stay away than confront the memories," she confessed. "Or to avoid new ones," he added, his gaze steady as they walked. "But sometimes, new memories can be just as beautiful." Clara's breath hitched to the weight of his words. Could he be suggesting that this moment, this connection might blossom into something more? The prospect both thrilled and terrified her. She stole a glance at Mia, who was twirling in circles, her cotton candy still clutched in her sticky hands. "You're probably right," Clara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's complicated." "Complicated can be good. It means there is depth," he replied, his tone earnest. They reached a small stall selling colorful towels, and Mia, ever a curious one, dashed over while Clara lingered back, caught in her thoughts. David followed, crouching to Mia's level as she eagerly pointed at the various patterns. "What do you think, Mia? Do you want to pick one for your special water adventure?" he asked, his voice filled with warmth. "Yes, the one with the unicorns." Mia squealed, her eyes shining with excitement. Clara felt a pang in her chest at the sight of the two of them together. David's easy rapport with her daughter stirred something deep within her, an unexpected longing for companionship, for laughter, for love. "Unicorns it is," David affirmed, reaching for the bright towel adorned with pastel colors and sparkling horned creatures. As he handed it to Mia, Clara felt a mix of admiration and a tinge of jealousy. Why did he have to make it look so effortless? "Mia, sweetie, remember to say thank you." Mia looked up, her mouth full of cotton candy, and mumbled a half-hearted thank you before returning to her twirls. "I think she is still on a sugar high," David chuckled, standing up straight again and brushing his hands on his pants. His grin widened, and Clara couldn't help but smile back. "Absolutely," Clara said, her voice steady even as her heart raced. "She is excited to have a new towel to dry off with. And to have someone like you to share it with," David said, his eyes locking onto hers. The intensity sent a thrill through her. Was he implying they might see each other again? "Thank you for being so sweet with her," Clara said, her voice softening. "It means a lot to me to see her so happy." "But it's easy to be sweet with such a bright spirit," he replied, turning slightly to look at Mia, who was now waving her new towel like a flag. "You're a good mom, Clara, she reflects that." His compliment created a rush of warmth that filled her chest. "You really think so?" "Absolutely," he said, nodding with conviction. "It's not just about what we do, but how we share our love and attention. She is lucky to have you." Clara felt a lump in her throat. The praise was unexpected, and she struggled to find the right words. "I try my best," she said finally, glancing down at her feet, suddenly overwhelmed by the gravity of his words. "Your best is all anyone can do," he affirmed, his voice gentle yet firm. "And it shows." As they stepped away from the stall, Clara found herself wrestling with a whirlwind of emotions. David's presence felt electric, and she couldn't deny that a part of her was drawn to him. But another part clung to her doubts, whispering that it was too soon to explore anything more than a fleeting moment. "Shall we find a spot to sit and dry off?" David suggested, breaking the heavy silence. "Sounds good," she replied, grateful for the distraction. They walked further into the square, finally settling at a shaded bench beneath a large oak tree. Clara took a deep breath, savoring the scent of the fresh leaves and the sweet, lingering aroma of cotton candy. "Are you okay?" David asked, his brow furrowing slightly as he noticed the slight tension in her shoulders. "Yeah, I am fine," Clara replied too quickly. "Just trying to figure things out in my head." "Life can be a lot to process," he said, leaning slightly closer. "I get that. You're doing a great job, just by living through it." Clara appreciated his kindness, but couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing on a precipice. "It's just I haven't let anyone in for a long time," she confessed, her heart racing at the vulnerability. "And you don't have to rush," he said softly. "I am not going anywhere, just enjoy the moment with us." His soothing tone washed over her like a comforting blanket, but still, Clara felt the twinge of fear. "But moments can lead to expectations, and I don't know if I am ready for that." I understand, he said, his gaze unwavering. But what if this is just a moment? Nothing more, nothing less. Mia interrupted them, plopping down on the bench, her cotton candy now a colourful mess on her face. "Mommy, look, I am a unicorn," she exclaimed, twirling again, her laughter echoing. Clara chuckled, the sound brightening the air, but David turned to her, seriousness in his eyes. "See, she's just living in the moment. We could learn a lot from her, you know." Clara met his gaze, feeling a swell of connection. "I don't want to ruin Mia's innocence," she said softly, her heart aching at the thought of bringing complications into her life. "Life is full of complexities," David replied, his voice steady. "But that doesn't mean there isn't room for joy, for connection, for love." His words hung between them, thick with emotional tension. Clara felt her heart flutter again, a mix of hope and fear spiraling through her. "Love," she echoed, barely able to contain the weight of the word. "Yes, love," he reiterated, his gaze penetrating. "It doesn't have to be all-consuming to be beautiful. It can simply be a moment shared, a connection formed." "But what if I can't give that back?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What if I hold you back?" David leaned back, contemplating her words, a hint of frustration crossing his features. "Clara, you won't know unless you try. What is the worst that could happen?" Clara sighed, looking away. "Heartbreak, disappointment, I've had enough of both." "But haven't you also experienced joy?" he countered gently. "The laughter, the connection you've felt today, it's all part of living." She wanted to believe him, but feared the depths of her own heart. "I just don't want to hurt Mia," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "And you won't," he assured her, his tone unwavering. "Love can be shared, nurtured, and it can grow without overshadowing anything else. You deserve to feel this, Clara." Tears pricked at her eyes. "You make it sound easy, but it is not." "Nothing worthwhile ever is," he responded, his voice low and soothing. "But it is worth exploring, just a little at a time." Clara felt the weight of his words, the truth resonating deep within her. "You be so sure of this," she murmured, admiration creeping into her voice. "I am sure of what I see in you," he said, leaning closer, the knees brushing against one another. "You are strong, Clara, and you deserve to feel happiness again, even if it is little moments at a time." In that moment, Clara felt the walls around them fade, the bustling square quieting to a soft hum. The intensity of his gaze held her captive, igniting a fire within her she thought had long been extinguished. "All right," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe just today, I'll let myself believe that." "That is all I ask for," David replied, his smile wide and genuine. As they lingered in that charged moment, Clara felt a sense of excitement and trepidation, the fear of what might come next colliding with the hope of what could blossom from this unexpected encounter in the city square. Perhaps this was a beginning, one filled with laughter, connection, and the possibility of love. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the square as Clara and David sat side by side on the bench, Mia still lost in her unbridled joy. Clara's heart raced, wrestling with the warmth of David's gaze and the creeping insecurities that nudged at her like an insistent child. Mia giggled, spinning around in her unicorn towel, droplets of water flinging off her hands as she danced in a circle. "Mommy, look, I am a magical unicorn," she exclaimed, her laughter infectious, pulling Clara back to the present. "Yes, you are, sweetheart." Clara beamed, her eyes softening at the sight. Yet, as she shared this moment with her daughter, Clara's heart felt heavy. Could she really allow herself to feel something more than fleeting happiness? David watched them with a smile that lit up his features. "She has something special," he said softly, his tone filled with warmth. "You're doing a great job, Clara." The sincerity in his voice tugged at her, but Clara felt an instinctual need to protect herself. "It is easy to be a good mom when things are going well," she replied, forcing a nonchalant tone. "But I am afraid of what happens when it is not." David's expression shifted, concern etched on his brow. "And when is it ever going to be completely well? Life isn't meant to be pristine. It is messy and unpredictable. That is where growth happens." Clara swallowed hard, his words resonating within her. "You make it sound so easy," she said, her voice dropping. "But I've been guarding my heart for so long, afraid of losing it again." "Guarding your heart is one thing, closing it off is another," he said, his tone gentle yet firm. "You shouldn't have to choose between loving your daughter and opening yourself up to new experiences. Can't you do both?" "I want to," she replied, her heart pounding. "But how do I know it is safe, that you are safe?" David nodded thoughtfully, a flicker of vulnerability passing through his blue eyes. You don't know until you try, but I am here and I am not going anywhere, he reassured her, his voice steady. Mia, sensing the shift in their conversation, tumbled into Clara's lap, her unicorn towel a bright splash of color against the muted shades of the evening sky. Mommy, can we go see the giant slide? She asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. Clara couldn't help but laugh. The giant slide? You've certainly got enough energy for that. She looked at David, who raised an eyebrow as if to say, why not? Let us do it. David chimed in, his enthusiasm infectious. I'll race you two to the slide. Okay. Mia squealed, leaping off Clara's lap and dashing ahead, her laughter trailing behind her like a melody. Clara's heart soared at Mia's joy, but a flicker of concern remained as she watched David job to keep up with her. Wait, Clara called, her arms instinctively reaching out as if to protect her daughter, even from a harmless race. David turned, a teasing smile on his face. Don't you worry, I'll keep up with her, he said, and the promise in his voice eased her anxiety slightly. Reluctantly, Clara joined them, her feet quickening to match Mia's pace. The air was filled with laughter and excitement as they dashed through the crowd. Clara couldn't remember the last time she felt this alive. Her heart raced, not just from the sprint but from the thrill of sharing this moment with David. When they reached the slide, Mia's eyes lit up at the towering structure, colorful and inviting. Look at how high it is, she exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. Are you ready to conquer it, brave unicorn? David asked, kneeling beside her with an encouraging grin. Mia nodded vigorously, her confidence unwavering. Clara felt a swell of pride at the way David interacted with her daughter, so effortlessly drawing out her courage. Okay, sweetheart, Clara said, kneeling down beside Mia. Just remember to hold on tight. As they climbed the stairs to the top of the slide, Clara felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. What if she slips? The worry gnawed at her, but David's presence beside her was reassuring. Don't worry, he said, sensing her trepidation. Mia's got this, and I'll be right here too. His calm demeanor soothed her, even when her instinct screamed to hold on tighter. Mia reached the top, her eyes wide and sparkling with excitement, and Clara felt momentarily frozen, caught in the duality of pride and fear. I am going, Mia shouted, her voice ringing with pure delight. Go for it, David encouraged, his voice cutting through Clara's anxiety like a beacon. She watched as Mia threw herself down the slide, squealing with joy, and for a brief second, all her worries faded. When Mia reached the bottom, she jumped up, her face radiant. That was amazing, Mommy, you have to try. Clara's heart sank at the thought. I can tell, honey, I am too old for that. David leaned closer, his voice playful. You're never too old for a slide, Clara. It's all about letting go and enjoying the moment. No, really, Clara began, but the look of pure excitement on Mia's face held her in place. Okay, maybe just once. Just once, David echoed, a challenge dancing in his blue eyes. With a deep breath, Clara climbed the stairs, feeling the rush of adrenaline mixed with lingering fear. She reached the top and looked down, her heart pounding. Here goes nothing, she muttered, her voice barely audible. Just enjoy it. David called up, his encouragement echoing in her ears. With one last glance at Mia, Clara pushed herself off the edge, a surprised squeal escaping her lips. The rush of wind tangled her hair, and for a fleeting moment she felt weightless, free. As she reached the bottom, she tumbled out onto the grass, laughing uncontrollably. That was incredible, she gasped, looking up to see Mia jumping up and down. Mommy, that was so cool. Mia squealed, her face aglow with joy. David stood nearby, clapping his hands. See? I told you it would be fun. Clara grinned, exhilaration coursing through her veins. Okay, you win. That was worth it. Can we do it again? Mia begged, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Maybe later, Clara replied, still catching her breath. But first, let us grab some water. As they walked back toward the main square, Clara felt lighter, the laughter and adrenaline dissipating the heaviness that had weighed her down for so long. But as she stole a sideways glance at David, who walked beside her with an easy smile, her thoughts clouded with uncertainty once more. Thank you for pushing me, Clara said, her voice soft. I needed that. In a time, he replied, glancing at her with an intensity that made her heart race. Life is too short to hold back completely. Sometimes, you have to take the plunge. These words hung in the air between them, charged with unspoken possibilities. Clara felt the warmth of his gaze linger on her, a magnetic pull that stirred something deep within her. Could she really allow herself to explore this connection? Do you always encourage strangers to slide down playground equipment? She teased lightly, her voice wavering between flirtation and caution. Only the intriguing ones, he shot back, a glint of mischief in his eyes. Clara laughed, the sound bubbling up from her chest, and she felt a spark of connection, one that was undeniable yet frightening. As they reached the water stand, Clara found herself momentarily lost in the warmth of David's presence, the chemistry crackling just beneath the surface. 2 waters, please, David said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a few bills. Clara hesitated, wrestling with the thrill of his generosity. What is your favorite flavor? The question caught her off guard. Flavors, you mean, like sparkling or still? Exactly, or do you prefer something more adventurous? He mused, a playful grin on his face. Well, if we were being adventurous. Clara paused, daring to meet his gaze. I like lemon-infused water. Great choice, I'll remember that, he said, handing the vendor the money. As they walked away with their drinks, the atmosphere around them felt charged, the connection deepening with each passing moment. Clara fought the urge to analyze every sensation, reminding herself to simply enjoy. Want to find a spot to sit? David suggested, glancing around the now bustling square. Sure, Clara replied, her heart fluttering at his attentive demeanor. They settled down at a nearby bench, where the fading sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, a stunning backdrop to their unexpected afternoon. Look at that sunset, David said, nodding towards the horizon. It is beautiful. It is, Clara agreed, but her mind lingered on the beauty of the